next example, we have the graph of x plus 2y is less than negative 2. Again, we have a line, and most people who graph lines would rather it be slope-intercept form, which would mean that we would need to solve this equation for, or this inequality, for y. And in order to do this, what we'll do is we'll subtract x from both sides, which will get me, 2y is less than, we've got the negative x we'd like to write first. Then we've also got the negative 2. Remember, you cannot combine those because they are not like terms. All you can do is actually write them on the same side, the negative 2 and the negative x, but you can't actually put them together. The last thing that you can do here is divide both sides by 2. And again, be careful that you're dividing everything on both sides by 2, which gives me that y is less than. Be careful here. What you have out in front of this x is actually a negative. We've got a hidden 1 there with the negative. And we've got the 2 on the bottom. And then we have our x that's next to it. And on the next piece, we have a minus. We have a minus, and we also have to divide that piece by 2, so 2 divided by 2 gives you a 1. Now at least we have a line in slope-intercept form. If we start with our slope is right here. It's negative 1/2. So our slope is negative 1/2. And then our y-intercept, the b, is negative 1. So our y-intercept is equal to negative 1. Well, we're going to start with the y-intercept. That's where we intersect the y-axis here at negative 1. Then we use our slope as a rise over run. Remember, because our rise is negative, it actually means that our graph is going to go down 1. The run is still positive, so it's over 2. Let me clarify. You either need to put the negative with the rise or with the run, but not with both. If you put it accidentally both with the rise and run, you'll have a negative divided by a negative, which is not a negative, it's a positive. So you either count the negative as part of the rise or as part of the run, but not both. So we're going to go down 1 and over 2. The question is, what kind of line do we have? Well, let's look. We have a less than symbol, not a less than or equal to, so it is going to be a dotted graph here. We already said it was a line, so I'm going to do a dotted or dashed line here. It doesn't have to be perfect. I'm not a great artist. The question now becomes, which side of the line are we actually going to shade in? Well, we need to pick a point to actually test, so let's pick a point. I'm going to pick, again, remember the point cannot be on the line. I'm going to pick the easiest point I can pick, which is 0, 0, and we've got to test it. So we're going to test 0, 0 by plugging it in to the original inequality, which was x plus 2y is less than negative 2. Remember that we're plugging in 0 for x and for y. So let's see. Plug in 0 for x and for y. Well, in this part, if you plug in 0 for y, it'll be 0 times 2, which is 0, plus the 0 from the x, which is still going to give you 0 when you add up the two zeros. On the other side, we still have is less than negative 2. So, is 0 less than negative 2? And I bet we can all answer that one pretty quickly. The answer is no. 0 is not smaller than negative 2. What does that mean? It means, again, that the point 0, 0 doesn't work. So if the point we tested doesn't work, we don't shade that side of the graph that the point is on. We shade the side of the graph that the point is not on. So in this one, it would mean the other side, the below part. And so we're going to shade the part of the graph that the point 0, 0 is not on, the other side. And we're done. That's it. Let's look at this next problem. In this next problem, we have y is less than or equal to x squared minus 4. Well, first of all, let's look at this. We have a less than or equal to symbol, which means whatever kind of graph this is, it's going to be a solid graph because of the equal to. Now let's keep looking. Back in an early chapter, we found out if you had an x squared, it was going to be a parabola, meaning be a U shape pointing up or a U shape pointing down. Now we also found out in that chapter, it all depends on if it's going to point up or down with the number that's out in front of the x squared. Well, you don't see anything here, so it's a hidden 1. So, which U is it going to be, the pointing up or pointing down? Well, remember, this is your A, and if A is positive, it points up. So it'll be the U shape pointing up. Now, we also learned in that same chapter that this minus 4 will do something. Because it's not inside of parentheses, it's going to be on the outside of the function, which means it's going to tell you whether or not you're shifting up or down your parabola. The minus 4 is going to tell you that you're shifting down your parabola 4 from where it normally is. It normally starts here at the origin. We're going to shift it down 4 to 1, 2, 3, 4 here. Here down at negative 4. We said our parabola will still point upwards. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. Just trying to get a good idea. Now, notice I drew a solid line again because of the equal to. Continuing along, now I need to figure out which side of our parabola we're going to shade by testing a point. We need to test a point that's not on our graph. Well, let's go ahead and test the point I kind of have drawn on here already, which is 0, 0. That one's a nice one because it's usually makes things disappear. Well, we had y is less than or equal to x squared minus 4. Well, for testing the point 0, 0, we're plugging in 0 for x and 0 for y. So let's plug in 0 for x and 0 for y. So what that will do is give us 0 is less than or equal to. Well, in this second piece on the right-hand side, 0 squared will just be 0. Minus 4 will actually give us, well, 0 minus 4 gives us a negative 4. So let's see what this says. If we were to just read this inequality here. 0 is less than or equal to negative 4. That is not true. 0 is not smaller than negative 4. So that means the point 0, 0 does not work. What that means is we won't shade that side of the parabola. We'll shade the side that 0, 0 is not on, which means we'll start shading the outside of the parabola, not the inside. And that's it.